Germany's Deutsche Bank is the latest big bank to report big profits. We've already seen Goldman Sachs and JPMorgan do the same last week, and all of this has brought executive pay back into the spotlight. Goldman has set aside almost $17 billion this year to pay employees. JPMorgan earmarked almost $9 billion. There's a lot of anger both here in the U.S. and over in Europe over the bonuses that bankers are getting, just months, of course, after they were bailed out by governments and taxpayers. Bloomberg columnist Matthew Lynn has a column about that today. You can read it at Bloomberg.com, but he does join us now from London live. And Matthew, good morning. We're going to start with the fact that banks are going to pay their star performers no matter what. It's in the culture, it's in the DNA. So what can they do to soften the blow from a PR perspective?
Well, I think they need, they need to do something, and I was trying to address that in the piece I wrote today. There's been this debate going on for years, and we've always known bankers, pay themselves huge amounts of money. We've been discussing this on Bloomberg for a long time. I'm sure the viewers are familiar with the discussion. They used to use lines like, they paid huge amounts of tax, and that they were the best and the brightest, and so on, to try and justify the kind of salaries that they earn. But they can't really justify that anymore. I mean, it's only a year since the whole kind of financial system came crashing all around them, and a lot of these institutions had to be bailed out by the government. So I think they're going to have to come up with some different lines. And I was just kind of joking around partly with things they could do. They can make Bono chairman and Nelson Mandela his deputy, because nobody ever criticises Bono, and he pops up everywhere. Certainly no one criticises Nelson Mandela. They could rebrand themselves as the bank that fights climate change by banning executive flights of building wind farms. But I think there's kind of I'm kidding around with those kind of options. But I think there's a serious point in there somewhere, which is that they have to come up with something to to replace the old lines and to distract people's attention from what's going on.
But isn't that the problem? It's just really a distraction. The problem still is that they are paying a lot of money out to their bankers.
Well, I mean, absolutely. I mean, there's two issues here. I mean, one, I think the banks need to reform and probably think hard about the way they present that. I mean, Goldman Sachs are already a couple of steps ahead of this one, because Goldman's are always a couple of steps ahead of the game, and they're already exploring ways of making a big charitable donation at the same time as they announce their bonus payments. And it's going to be pretty big. $500 million or something of that order to take people's eye off the ball, or you can commit yourself to eradicating a disease or something. Works for Bill Gates. We don't worry so much about Microsoft software crashing all the time, because we think, hey, Bill's a nice guy. He goes around eradicating malaria. But I think they do need to do something. Otherwise, a head of steam is going to build up. I mean, you see it in the US, you see it in Europe, you see it in France, and over here in London. People are cross about these bonuses.
Sure.
And probably underneath it, I mean, as you say, they'll have to think more seriously about how they can justify this.
Well, a lot of banks will say that they already engage in quite a bit of philanthropy. What difference would it make, really, if you link it to bonuses? And just very quickly here.
Yeah, I mean, they already do that kind of thing. I mean, they give away a few $1 million, and they give away quite a few political donations, as you were touching on just in your earlier report, and that helps a little bit with the PR as well. But I think if they want to try and sort of get themselves some brownie points back in the community, I mean, they really are going to have to step that up a whole level and do it a lot more seriously.
All right. Well, we'll watch for that. Perhaps that will happen. You want to read his column, that is, on Bloomberg.com. That was Matthew Lynn, Bloomberg columnist in London.